Next week I'll bring some spray, Tanner. Are you you want a medium tone or the dark tone?
Dude, just put me next to Chef and like I'll just disappear into the white walls, like, or I don't know.
Mental, start the damn show.
Welcome once again to the Dirt or Die Porsche Podcast. My name's Duane, and I'm joined by JP, my friend. As always, JP, how are you tonight?
Cheers. I love how we're joined, right? I mean, it's like,
joined at the
what
hip.
am I, a guest?
Siamese twins.
You know, this is our show. My partner and I.
Well, you know,
Duane,
I don't get caught up in semantics.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know
Mental's
what I mean.
behind the big box tonight. He's behind the big board.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It feels great having Mental back over there, at least 6 feet away.
Is there a smell issue
You know what
or
I mean?
something like that? We got Jason Alter.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Look at that.
Muy
Hot
bien.
dang.
¿Y tú?
Hot dang. Look at this.
No.
It's looking like a show. Cheers to our friends, Chef, who couldn't be here with us tonight because he's got a big thing happening. So,
Yeah.
Alter,
And
you should be wearing the
I-
chef glasses.
I can't.
in-
It's too big.
Come on.
I
in
can't
his
hold
honor, you look the camera's like, go.
I can't
like,
do
No,
it.
you
can't
can't.
even-
It's
there
too
it is.
sexy. It's
Oh,
too sexy. Please, Antonio, think of the children.
They're mighty big spectacles to fill.
I think we need to start calling him Miami J.
I like that, actually.
It works.
All
It works.
right, with those
yeah.
glasses.
You know,
Miami J in the house.
Chef
Yeah.
is recovering from his fall at Luft. You know, he skinned up one whole foot when he got caught in the Venus flybed.
Did he ate shit
Yeah.
in the Airbnb at Luftgekühlt? And I think that's what we want to talk about today, right? Is
We do.
Luftgekühlt?
It's
Luft
kind of
9?
weird because we've talked about it multiple times since then, you and I and some other people. So it feels like we've already, beat this horse to death. But we need to record it in perpetuity to remember the good time that Luft was. Now I want to start off and say that San Francisco, totally safe. Should we say that we were a little, out there thinking that it would be kind of
No.
dangerous?
No, were you?
I was
in
trying to give San Francisco a shout out.
Oh my god!
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was like Vallejo, right, in Mare
You weren't
Island.
in
You
San
weren't in
Francisco.
San Francisco.
I was. I
Valle-
was in South San Francisco on Friday night Friday night.
Yeah, you were in Brisbane,
Well,
which is
that's
pseudo
true.
San Francisco.
Never
had to
directly went downtown or in the smash and grab section, if you will. So
And I love to disagree with JP at every opportunity, but having been to Frisco and Oakland a few times, no, we were absolutely not overreacting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is as bad as
listen.
as we thought.
I have to say that I have long family history from the Bay Area. So I feel a certain, like I said in my Instagram post, a certain reverence for the area. Like I feel that family connection when I go there, even though I've never lived there. My father was born there. My grandfather lived there, for 82 years or something like that. Joined the Navy, went down to the police chief in San Francisco and said, "Hey, will you sign me up for the Navy at 16?" Because his dad wouldn't do it for him. And joined the Navy at 16 because he was hungry, basically. So everywhere I went, I just I had this feeling of, being home from another life, which is kind of weird because, like I said, I've never lived there. But so there was that kind of cool, feeling that I got the entire time I was there. Now, the other thing was Patrick just didn't disappoint. We always are very critical of Patrick and Jeff, Patrick Long, Jeff Zwart. They always deliver. It's insane. Like I went in with fairly low expectations this time, and it turned out like this one and Universal, my two favorites. And I've been to 5 or 6 of them now, 4, 5, 6. How many have I been to?
When was
5.
Have you missed one since you started?
I missed the lumber.
Okay, so you
and
missed
my
5.
first one was
so you were 4,
4,
6,
and we're on
and
9.
then you
So
did-
I've done 4.
yeah.
So of the 4, this one's either a close second or a tie to Universal, which is incredible to say that because I think you've often said that was the greatest car show of all time.
Yeah. And I stand by that. I mean, I'll still, I mean, it's going to take something so amazingly special to top Universal. And
Right.
when I say it was the greatest car show of all time, I don't necessarily mean it was my favorite. I'll still go back to Luft 3.
Your first one, yep.
Yeah, Luft 3 was not nearly as big a spectacle. It wasn't nearly as curated as all the subsequent ones. But Luft 3 was magic. It was in that perfect place of time and space. That's when kind of this whole thing happened.
Right.
Whereas Luft 6 was just like unbelievable from a spectacle point of view. And it was so lean, and that was the difference, I think,
That's a very good point.
between 6 and 9, where it was very curated and very well done, but the venue was so big, and in my opinion, too big, and that's not a criticism. I am saying, for the record, spectacular show.
Yeah. It felt like Disneyland and Disney California.
Yeah, maybe.
Like you could choose two sides, but
never been to
it's
either
hard
one
to
of those, so I
oh,
don't know.
okay. It's hard to do both in one day.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. I was like, I'm going to choose the south side.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend more time there, and then I'm going to go to the north side or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they just had so much space on Mare Island. What a cool venue. And
Stunning.
Yeah, and we'll probably get to it, but they had two separate sides where one was way less curated. But it still felt like a show, and there were curated elements that made it, cool. It didn't feel like
They didn't completely forget about that side.
This
They
is
had
the Dingleberry side. It didn't feel like that. You didn't feel like
Right.
you were relegated, even though I was on the Dingleberry side. Let's call it that.
But I think your car got so much more foot traffic because of just the way it was set up. You were right on the ocean with 100 other cars.
Yeah.
But everyone was just like walking along that as
And
the art things were on the...
that was dumb luck, right? Because I think when you and I were talking off camera, when you, and we'll probably talk about the Airbnb and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you and I drove together from the Airbnb, we had obviously tons of friends that were there at the show that we met, but from the Airbnb, the other guys that were staying weren't in the show, so they didn't have to get up at the ass crack of dawn.
Right.
You and I did, to, I think, our benefit. We got to experience that amazing drive down the hill with the unbelievable sunrise. We got to kind of
That was spectacular.
wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
and then even getting
I
on
kept
the
wanting
freeway.
to get... It was like a tough choice between get the camera out and record this or just live in the moment. It's like
Yeah.
the person at the front row of the concert just like being present. So I didn't get any of that.
Isn't
But
that
it's,
the
it's
world right now, though?
immortalized. It is.
Isn't
yeah.
that the whole goddamn thing? And I think that's...
And people never watch that stuff later.
Yeah,
like
they just don't.
they're front row for LeBron James getting...
Yeah.
How where was this Airbnb?
Well, we'll talk about the Airbnb.
Get to that.
Let's stay on the show, and I appreciate that, Mental, because the Airbnb is kind of a fun story.
And
on
thank
its
you for
own.
saving Chef at 2 a.m. That's
Yeah.
all, by the way.
Yeah.
Rescuing him from
Talk
the...
about his ailments. It's a lot like down here we record the show in the Rami studio in downtown Container Park, and you always see tourists walking through the Fremont Street Experience. If you've ever been to the Fremont Street Experience, it's a big video screen over the top of you, and everyone's like taking video like anyone's going to watch it. No one's going to watch it.
Right.
It's so important to just live in it, and I felt like that drive. It's great that you bring this up because as a filmmaker, that is a constant problem. And when I go on events like this, I want to just record everything and make an amazing episode. But then I'm like, well, then I miss half the damn stuff. So I really made that choice specifically not to really film anything. I hardly took any pictures. I hardly did any of that kind of stuff because I just wanted to see what this thing's going to be.
Right.
And so we drove down there, and when you drove in, what was your first impression when you drove around the corner and saw all the cars lined up? What did you think? I know you had a similar take that I did.
I did. So I actually thought that was probably just part of the show. I mean, it was cool. Like there were all these old, brick buildings. It was kind of this little courtyard area, and there were how many cars? At least 50, maybe hundreds. Yeah. In perfect rows, kind of all lined up, and people were starting to get out of their cars. And I'm like, okay, well, this is randomly where I'm going to be, like kind of right smack dab in the middle of this parking lot.
That was the confusing part, is that people were out of their cars. Mm-hmm. So when you're in line to get in the parking lot and you see all these rows of cars and people milling around, you're like, okay, well, okay.
And
I think
you
I
could have
said on
spent-
live, because I went live on that. That was one of the few things I did. I was like, I can't say I'm excited about this, but all right, I'll reserve judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
And despite just the being a perfect checkerboard of cars, you look around and you just see like, oh my gosh, like there's a perfect Carrera, you know, a perfect 74 Carrera or whatever. Or over there's the 67S or whatever, 69S.
Yeah.
Just beautiful cars and 356s and 914s. And I mean, you could spend an hour just in that lot.
Yeah.
And then we started getting rows of us started getting flagged
like
in.
Pointing left and pointing right. You were directly behind me. And that was like just, and again, it was dumb luck because neither of our cars were curated. We were just in the group of, okay, they're going to put our cars, they're going to live curate it like we do Cars and Cafe. So sure enough, Patrick Longstand there, he points at me and goes this way, and he points at you, and I don't know if you saw him, and he pointed, and you went in a different lane. So I just rolled up to the front of this lane going, oh, okay, what's going on here? And I'm like, do I turn my car off? Do I turn it on? Do I leave it on? I was just about to kill it. And Patrick walks up. He goes, you, that way. And I'm like, okay. So I just started. I wasn't stopped for more than a couple of minutes. And they immediately took me in. I took a left, and like you said, right on the beach. And you could see, oh, okay.
This is the real venue.
That's just staging over there. They got something going on.
I saw
Ye of little faith, right?
Post today that said somebody was in that lot for 2 hours. I think it was an exaggeration.
It must have been.
There were people in there that were probably in there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But still, that's not bad. I mean, considering how many cars they had in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Dingleberry side that I was on, they filled that up pretty quick. They kept that moving.
They did,
it was a
because
bigger
it was just
area.
like
just move cars in. I got lucky because it's on a pier. It was at an old submarine military submarine manufacturing Navy base, right, from World War II. So you've got the dry docks, and you've got these big, huge, ramps, and all these cool old school, 20s and 30s cranes and stuff like that. Just
massive
amazing
cranes made out of steel and like giant wheels. I mean, they were just like
when dudes built stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was
right?
unreal. The rivets on those things, it was just
when we were beating
amazing.
them damn Nazis.
That's right. That's how we beat the world.
And then they made a car for us that we're super happy about. So I got lucky because the way it just shook out, there were these huge. What are those? What do you call it? You're from Miami J. The thing that you put the rope on a dock. What's that called?
Oh God, where you tie a cleat?
A cleat.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you very much. Yes,
Yeah,
I grew
nice
up on
pull.
a lake. I should know. Yeah. So they had these cleats that were the size of this table. They were massive, maybe the size of a car. And so that was kind of a break. They would put like 20 cars between each cleat. And again, dumb luck. It just worked out for me. I was on the end, so I was kind of at an angle. So people walking by could really see my car from one side, whereas everyone else kind of in that row was kind of buried in there. There were some pretty spectacular cars in there that I think deserved more attention, but there was just too many cars. There was just too many amazing cars. And again, that would be my only criticism of the entire thing is that I think maybe they could have done fewer cars, but we'll get to that.
Which is the impression that I got with fewer cars, because I got into, I guess, the more curated section. Maybe by luck, I don't know. Maybe Patrick pointed me out. I'm not sure, but
he saw your license plate says Luke.
Maybe, but then he parked me in a corner. Well, he didn't personally, but I mean, whatever.
He smelled you, Duane.
Something.
He's like a vampire. He could smell Luft blood.
Right.
The
followers.
The I Heart Patrick stickers on the windows might have.
I mean, that was probably it.
Or maybe it was because you're like, hey, Patrick, I'll blow you for a good spot. Pretty sure that happened.
That's exactly right.
Pretty sure that happened.
But that section that I was in, there were not that many cars. And I was like, this is a small show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where I could see like little, places to go, like little hallways, if you will, like between buildings. I was like, maybe there's probably another section around there where some of the other cars from that lot that I just got out of made it to. I didn't realize until literally I walked around for like 2 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 before I even realized
we were texting one another trying to find each other, and you're like, I'm by the big crane, and I'm like, I look over, oh, there's a 300-foot crane. It must be that's the big crane. So you walk a half mile down to the big crane. You're like, he's not here. And at that point, we started putting on our muumuus, our Porsche muumuus that we made. We made dirt or die Porsche muumuus with our big logos on the back and Bid Nerds on the front. And
those things were highly visible.
They were.
You could see that from
especially
across
on you because you're 14 feet tall. So
yeah, it just looked like a little jacket on me.
Yeah.
It looked like everyone else. It looked like they were swimming.
Members only. Yeah.
Looked like a tight 80s members only jacket on me, but this thing is like a mechanics.
I was swimming in it. Yeah, it was at my ankles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were having fun with that, but we were having a hard time finding you, and finally it was like, because on our section there was a big huge exit sign. It was like, well, okay, you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And then that's when we realized, oh, way across a quarter mile across the parking lot after you get out, you go back in, and there was another 300-foot crane. And
it was such a weird transition between the two, because from my side there was a gantry, like a gantry crane, and cars parked under the A-frames or whatever. And then that kind of felt like the end. There was that gate there.
Yeah.
And so I went down there and I was like, okay, this is the end. Turned around, walked back. I mean, and then later I went through there realizing that there's more.
Like more. Like
way,
not just a
way
more, but
like
there was more show on the Dingleberry side.
Three
than there
quarters
was on the
of the cars were on that side.
Yeah. So I think the staff started getting wise to that.
They did.
They realized, oh, okay, there's a problem. So they started telling everybody, hey, go out. And like, did you get a bracelet?
Only like literally 2.5 hours into the show when I finally crossed that barrier.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't get a bracelet, so I'm like going, if I go out, am I going to be able to get back in? And then they ran out of them, so I never got one. So funny. I literally just I had to show my phone, but you know, they didn't. It's not like they were going to tackle you at that point or something like that.
They figure if you're in there, and
you're there,
probably
you're there.
paid.
So Mental, you got there, a couple hours after we did. What was your first impression coming in as a spectator? You took the bus. You had to park in the parking area. How was that? How did they do?
The parking area was silly. The last one we went to in LA, the 8, they had an entire parking lot for nothing but Porsches, and they were trying to do the same thing, but it was just a field with pockets of Porsches. I have no idea what that was about. And then, the jackets got me and Chef in early because they're like, oh, well, these guys are dressed up. They have to be in there early. And they actually got us on the bus early. Same exact problem. Where the buses dropped you off, it was the Dingleberry side, but this is where the food trucks were. It's where the beer was. It's where everything was. And we wandered around for a good ton of it because our buddy from 914 Rubber, Matt, was there. And he was also on the other side. And for the longest time, we had no idea. We're like, God, where are they saying they are? And we wandered around that thing twice before we realized you have to leave it and then come back into another section.
Yeah.
Did you ever see one of the maps? They actually
really?
they were giving out maps.
Really?
So I think they kind of knew it might have been a confusion thing.
Yeah.
But then you're right. I think they told the people at that gate, because one guy was like, there's more show this way. And he was like waving people through.
Yeah.
Like this is like noon.
Yeah.
By the time he was doing
and
that.
that's the Luftgekühlt experience that I think that is so great. It's that the cars are important, but you could have milled around on one side or the other and not cared really. I mean, it was great to see, you do want to see the whole thing, but I think a lot of people approach the show with kind of there's two different types of attendees of this kind of stuff. And let's talk about that right after a word from our good friends at Godden Classic. And before we do that, make sure you hit the subscribe, like, and notification button. We really appreciate you guys watching the show. We've noticed the subscriber count is eking up. I mean, instead of 3 people, I think there's 5 people that watch the show now.
Grandma,
so that's pretty awesome.
she subbed.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, good.
Thanks,
All right.
Grandma.
Nice. All right. So we'll see you in just a second, guys. Hey, guys, I got to tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you've got to call our friend Steve at Godden. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. All right, so we are back with Miami J over there doing the work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Miami J, I wish you were at Luft 9. We missed you there. Why weren't you there, buddy?
I was supporting my daughter who had a gymnastics competition. So
nice.
I wish I was at Luft as well. So, but
Well, we would
Fair
like
enough.
to have had you there. We understand.
Next time.
I will be at the next one.
You'll be at the next
I
one.
will be at the next
Yeah.
one.
I wonder, where do you think the next one's going to be?
Good question. Very good question. I'm still buzzing off of Luft 9, so I haven't even
Not even
considered
ready
where they
to
would be.
consider
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I would sure like to see it. I wanted to see that North Carolina one that they had planned.
The tobacco farm sounded
Yeah.
rad.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll reconsider it.
Biltmore Castle?
Biltmore Castle in Arizona, right?
No, in North Carolina.
Oh, no, is that where it was going to be? I thought it was going to be.
No, but
Oh.
I'm just saying, that's a good venue in North Carolina, Biltmore,
Random.
Biltmore Estate.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the idea. Remember, was it Joshy Robots was talking about having that cross country? What they had the Valkyrie Drive.
Yes, the
that you and
Valkyrie Drive.
and we were considering doing that.
We were. Yep.
Before everything shut down and they killed it. But that would have been. So yeah, I'm
would've been epic.
hoping they pull the trigger and do that. But back to Luft 9. I think there's a very specific. There's two different types of people, and it's like if you've ever been to like the Louvre or the Metropolitan Museum of Art or something like that, it's the exact same thing. It's museum goers.
Right.
It's tourists. There's tourists that go to Europe and they're like, they show up to Italy and they're like, I'm gonna see everything. And they've got 4 days in a city, and they've got their
they're just
tourist map.
ping-ponging
It's
off every-
yeah, right. And what happens? By the end of the first night, they get back to the hotel and they're like, I want to see another goddamn anything again. And then
Yeah.
they don't do anything. They just order room service and watch.
They get burned out.
Yeah. So I think you see, and you see that at Luft. You see this look in some people's eyes. They're like, I've got to see every car. I've got to take a picture of everything.
I was just
to
gonna say, like,
make a film about it. Oh my God.
the picture people and the museum people might be like the same person or whatever, because if you get caught up in the photography thing and you're not a professional photographer, it can be your downfall, because then you're living it through a phone screen instead of being present, like I was saying before.
Yep.
Now, if you're Larry Chen, is that his name?
Yeah.
And you're a professional photographer,
Yeah.
obviously you're running nonstop.
He was there, by the way.
Yeah, he was, and I saw
What
his.
the fuck? I mean, I'm a professional photographer, but I don't sit there and go and like, you have to separate. You
Definitely.
just have to just go, look, some experiences are more interesting than stupid cars. And I love these cars, but I love our friends and the people that we know more. And that's what's so awesome about Luft.
Yeah.
Is that we had those coats on, we had those jackets, and we didn't have them on all day. Once it got warmed up, we took them off and everything. So kind of the first half of the day and second half of the day were very different. But when we were in our little, group or clique or whatever the hell you want to call it.
That's a lasting memory.
Yeah. Everyone was having so much fun with that. Whether they knew who we were or not, it attracted a lot of attention and it made it fun. And we're talking to people and people are talking about the other stuff that we do, and we're out talking about them and what they do and what they're about, and all that stuff is just great. And the cars I could just give an F about.
You don't care because there's a $5 million race car right here. There's
Yeah.
a rare one of one over here. And just after a while, it doesn't matter. What you're there for is to catch up with people that maybe
Yep.
you only see once a year, or just
And that
to
are
hang out
never
with your
in
buddies.
the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see your buddy and then another buddy and then another buddy, but when all those friends are in the same place, that's rare, right? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's it's this unique space and time in the universe when all these things come together, and that is the Luft magic.
It is. And I keep taking this back to Disneyland because they figured out how to kind of have that magic moment like all the time, 24/7. But what you figure out after you go to Disneyland a dozen times is it's who you go with, who you're running around with to go to do whatever.
Yeah.
The rides are for little kids mostly.
Yeah.
They're not great thrill rides necessarily. They're cool, they're fun, whatever. But it's who you're experiencing it with that makes it so much fun. Now, there's also moments of solitaire. So when I first got there, 7 a.m. on the north side, there were no people.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a handful. I saw like Jeff was helping a 356 get parked in the corner, and that's how early I was.
Yeah.
And I'm in the main room with Rod Emery over here and just kind of wandering around in this like space. So to be there, to be alone, and just to kind of absorb that kind of art moment, I guess you could say,
Sure.
was spectacular. I really, really enjoyed that. Hanging out with you guys after that just made it, that much better.
Yeah.
But that first, 30 minutes of me just kind of like wandering around like I own the place. Like I've never had that kind of access before in a cool event like that. So it was really nice.
And that, and that is one of the cool things about that particular venue, and one of the good things about being in the Bay Area is that it's always going to be cloudy in the morning, and we were literally right on the water, and you had that old backdrop in the cars, and when they were staging everything, that really was kind of that was a unique experience that the spectators, the people that didn't have the good fortune of having their car in the show, unfortunately didn't get to experience. And so
you nailed it. It was like this kind of cloudy or foggy morning. Yeah. Quiet.
Yeah.
And solitude, and then the afternoon juxtapose that with like sunshine and tons of people, and it was interesting.
Well, yeah, and then that's the other thing. It's the aesthetic of Luft has always been so spectacular. No matter where they've had it, they've always taken on the Dingleberry side. There was that huge
Dingleberry side.
There was that huge warehouse.
Oh,
that they had one singular car in the middle of, and it's like a 8-story building. That was like a,
Pièce de la Résistance, if you will.
One single car. Now,
So
if you
cool.
went to any other car show and
there would have been 500 Corvettes in there.
Cars in there. Yeah, exactly. Or if it was like a kid show, like an e-tuner show or something like that, there would be 50,000 lowered Civics or something like that.
And there'd be like vendor booths around
the stupid
edge.
flags, those damn flags.
Oh yeah,
What
the
is that with
flags on a
kid
stick.
shows? The flags on a stick thing. It's like that's for selling espresso. What are they doing?
At least it's not wacky wavy inflatable guy.
You're right. It's like one click away from that. Talking about espresso and like we've got our drinks in here and stuff like that. There is something to when people have a specific like of a brand when it comes to like things like their favorite beverage. It's usually attached to an experience. Your favorite coffee is X because you were somewhere and that was the best cup of coffee you've ever had in your life. If you had that exact same cup of coffee somewhere else on a regular Tuesday, it wouldn't be nearly as good. You have that scotch that you like because you were somewhere, on vacation or whatever, and it was that perfect night in Hawaii or something like that, or Maui or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, some bartender introduces you to some new brand that you'd never heard of. You're having a great time. The weather, everything's fantastic, and you have this scotch. Look, how many times have you been with someone like we have a bottle of what is that?
Oh, the tequila,
the
fancy tequila,
fancy one. What's the fancy tequila up there?
Oh,
it's not even tequila.
I have one of
right?
those too. It is tequila.
It's like a $500 bottle or something like that, right? We polished that off months ago, and I think we poured just the cheapest.
It's 1800s in there.
It's 1800 that's in there right now, right? But if sitting here, if we had someone hanging out sitting here, we could pour it from that bottle into a cool glass with this cool ice cube and hand it to them, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is the greatest ever." It's all bullshit, right? I mean, but it's real because experience is about what your brain thinks it is, and Luftgekühlt really just brings all those things together. And anyone that says that Luft has jumped the shark, I think they're more like those second person that we were talking about at the beginning of this side of the show, which is the person that has to see everything, has to take a picture of goddamn everything, has to see every car, and I've seen that car, I've seen that car, I've seen this already. That once that person is jaded and their heart gets turned black, they lack the ability to really
They're too cynical.
themselves.
Which
is something coming from me, right?
I love that you guys said that, and I'm gonna because my first Luft was last year at 8. You guys drugged me out there. I didn't even drive. I rode out there with you, and then spent the professor run in Jason's car. And I had never seen something curated like that. So I spent the entire day just walking around. I think I have 100 pictures just from one day on my phone. And then going back to this one, I kind of just turned the obsessive need to document my presence there off. And having been to 8 and now Dee was out there, and having met you, you introduced me to some of you guys' inner circle out there. And I was making that shift to being there and experiencing it. And I didn't need to show everybody that I was there or remind myself with 100 pictures. I just really enjoyed it. And the jackets were like just a big, cool, goofy thing. And what's nice about something like that is it does induce strangers to want to talk to you. And if you're not a complete ass, you're going to have some great conversations.
Yeah,
For sure.
I mean, so I think the word that Duane, you said it, it's present. You were present, mental.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you got to experience that. And then between the last Luft and this one, you bought an air-cooled car.
Right.
Absolutely. And ideally
We brought him into the cult.
Yes. And if we absolutely do this correctly, between the last one and the next one, I'll be in the next Luft. So
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, so there's lots of things to look to in the future. Maybe you can get your car kind of ready to go for Rennsport. That's coming up in September, right?
Yeah. Would you drive your 914 to Rennsport?
where is Rennsport?
Same place,
it's
basically.
close
It's
to
in Monterey.
San Francisco,
Yeah.
so it's like what?
Monterey. It's
8 hours,
Laguna.
8.5,
Laguna Seca.
9.
You know what? I've never been afraid of a dumb decision, hence my ownership of that Porsche. Yeah, why not? And also, what else is happening in September? We've got a big event coming up in September, don't we?
We do. We have Vegas
Put it on
Auto Fest.
Jason with the AutoFest shirt.
Yeah, look at that.
Free
No,
advertising.
Jason, I don't know Jason.
I mean,
all
Miami
I know
J.
is a Miami J.
Miami J. It's
Without
looking,
sunglasses is a little weird looking, though, I got to say.
it's looking favorable for Miami J to have his car at AutoFest.
Oh, do
Nice.
we have an update on... actually, before... Lift up the poster. Can you lift up the poster so people can see Vegas Auto Fest? This is last year's poster. But just... There you go. Okay.
Shout out Tony.
That's not
Yeah,
working.
you're screwing it all up.
That's not working.
There we go.
Miami J.
It's close,
doesn't-
it's close.
Up,
doesn't
up,
know
up.
to- up. Go up so they can see the logo. All right.
To
close
your
enough.
left.
You get it. We'll put a link in the bottom.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. Miami J. Vegas Auto Fest, we are going to have registration open by the end of this month. So June, registration will be open
I
for
might
Vegas Auto
do
Fest.
Top of the Rock because if I'm willing to pay $200 to walk around a city block to get into Luft 8,
Yeah.
then I should just buy Top of the
Well,
Rock.
you're in
and-
the inner circle. You get VIP passes regardless at
Let him,
Vegas Auto Fest.
let him pay for it.
Sure, I got a
More
really good
shrimp
spot
for the
last
rest
year.
of us.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
and he should pay for it because all the proceeds, of course, go to the Children's Heart Hospital of Nevada.
Or some other
Or some
charity.
other
We
charity,
don't
yeah.
actually. I don't know if this charity has been locked in yet, but close enough. All the proceeds do go to a specific charity
Dwayne Wake
yet to be named.
Porsche Wide Body Charity.
Yeah, that's,
Charitable
that is
foundation.
definitely a 501c3 program for sure.
I want to say real quick, driving there being such that it was a longer journey and it wasn't like just pop on the AC and kick back and no worries. I saw a major accident right next to me on the way there.
Oh.
A truck overturned and blocked I-5 southbound on the way back, and I had literally off-roaded my 911 on this thing covered the entire emergency lanes and everything of the freeway. So we went off the embankment, and I thought I was going to get stuck and make even more of a mess. So I just gunned it and popped up back on the
Oh my gosh!
freeway,
you're kidding.
luckily.
Wow.
But I mean, that was just part of my heater got stuck on at one point. I'm in the middle of Baker, which is God knows where in the Mojave Desert. I'm like, got my car jacked up. But point is, like, the hard factor, the challenge factor made, the sweetness even that sweeter, like finally getting to Luft and coming over the hill in San Francisco and crossing, was it the Bay Bridge to go over? I'm not sure which one it was, but just spectacular. I mean, cool air finally.
Actually, yeah, it
and
was the Bay Bridge because you went to Brisbane first, so
Yep.
the 880. Yeah.
So, I mean, just being that it was harder to attain the car in the show made it that more
That's
special.
the difference between going on a trip and having an adventure.
Right.
I mean, how often, Miami J, you travel for work all the time. Are those really adventures? Those are just like, oh God.
Nah, there's no venture whatsoever.
Yeah. Get on the
Nowadays,
airplane,
with all the
go to the Marriott.
People on the plane, though, I
have
mean, you
your-
got a 1 in 5 chance for someone to get escorted off the plane by cops, it seems
These
like,
days,
according to TikTok.
it is getting pretty interesting. I have seen people losing their cool, but not a full on evacuation situation. I'm hoping for that maybe on this upcoming trip.
You haven't found yourself on a no-fly list just yet?
No,
That's
that would kind of put the kibosh on my earning potential. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be
the
an issue.
adventure part is exciting, though.
It's real.
I mean, yeah, having to pack your car and figure out what you're going to get in that tiny little car with, no space. What are you going to take? Are you going to take the floor jack, or are you going to leave it up to the little
Sunblock.
built-in jack? Yeah, sunblock and cash, right?
I love
That's
you,
all you
Duane.
need.
I had none of those things. I think I had like a crescent wrench, a screwdriver.
You know what my favorite thing to bring is?
Jumper cables. You got jumper cables now.
A piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
Because if you get stuck, you put that cardboard down. If the ground's hot or if it's like gravel, you got something to
Shout
lay
out
on.
to my friends at DWA. If you ever get a chance to go on one of the DWA rallies, the Coastal Range rally or whatever, they always hook everyone up with awesome swag. And I have two. They hooked me up with two of them. They have these like roll-up blankets that have like plastic on one side and blanket on the
Perfect.
other
Yep.
for just that situation. And it's like the size of this table, and it's the perfect thing to lay down if you're you got to be underneath your car and it's hot and horrible or wet and gross or there's bugs or whatever. It is one of the greatest things, and I have them in a couple of my cars.
Nice, yeah.
And I definitely recommend getting one.
DWA, if you're listening, send me.
Let's hook
me
up
one.
Dwayne. Come on, Lane. Hook up Dwayne.
Does it have the
Lane,
logo
hook
on
up
there?
Dwayne. It does. Yeah, I'll show
Perfect.
you. Maybe I'll give you one of mine. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. That was our Luft
Recap.
9 kind of recap. I think we probably want to do an episode about maybe the actual drive and kind of preparing for that and coming back.
Sure.
But we can talk about that in the future and maybe talk about the Airbnb experience and the dirt road and all the other stuff. And Michael Deeb, shout out to Michael Deeb, our friend in San Francisco with the Knob Hill Cafe. Michael Deeb is my partner at Bid Nerds for part of the Nerd Herd. If you're watching this show, if you migrated over here from being a Bid Nerds fan, we love you and thank you so much for being part of the show. So we went and had a spectacular dinner at the Knob Hill Cafe. Mental, you weren't there yet, right? You didn't get
Stuck in San Diego.
in San Diego. Again, one of those, probably one of the best meals of my life. If I had that sitting here, it'd be really good, but it wouldn't be the best meal of my life. It was just one of those experiences. Again, Rami was there.
Because you drove from
I drove
6 a.m.
straight
to
from Las Vegas to there. Rami and I made it, and there was 20 other people in the room, and Shadi and all the other guys that were there. It was just freaking
Shorty?
fantastic.
Shoddy
from 3PP.
Oh, yeah,
Shout out to
Shoddy.
Mauricio and
Mauricio's
all those
awesome.
great guys that always make this stuff fun. All right, well, thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for watching the Dirt or Die Porsche podcast. Hit the subscribe, like, and notification button if you haven't done it already. Thank you, Mental, for hitting the buttons, and Miami J for hanging out with us and not bringing pizza. Dick.